Hey everybody, Dragonfire here, and I'm coming at you with another one of my videos. Today we're returning to the NBA All-Time Team Series, and we are at the finale of this series, and we're talking today about the Washington Wizards. Now, the Washington Wizards could be considered the first true expansion franchise of the NBA. They came into the NBA in 1961 as the Chicago Packers. I believe they were the Chicago Packers for one season, then Chicago Zeppers for one season before moving to Baltimore and becoming the Bullets. And later, uh, from the Baltimore Bullets to the Capitol Bullets to the Washington Bullets, and finally the Washington Wizards. Um, yeah. Um, In the early years of the NBA, of course, the NBA counts their first official season as the 46/47 season, which was actually the first season of the BAA, Basketball Association of America, but they count those first three seasons. Um, and then there was several kind of contractions and expansions there in the early years, um, with the league sometime starting out with 11 expansion teams and then in the early years taking in some teams from other leagues such as the ABL and the NBL, and several franchises that some of the franchises expansion or coming in from other leagues, some of them folded over the years. And then eventually we got down to the point where there were only 8 teams. Now, interestingly enough, one of the early teams in the NBA, or the BAA at the time, was the Baltimore Bullets. Yeah, there was a team uh in the early NBA, or the early BAA slash NBA, known as the Baltimore Bullets, and they were a team that actually originated in the ABL, the American Basketball League. They jumped ship over to the BAA for the BAA's second season. Um, and then they ended up um, in the BA and then into the NBA, and they won the championship, the BA championship in 1948 for the second season of the league, the second official counted season, and they had also previously won a championship in the in the in the ABL as well. Um, but after that, when the team dwindled down at one point to only 9 teams, they were one of those 9 teams, and then they ended up going defunct, debunked. They the original version of the Baltimore Bullets went out of business, and they did not survive the early years of the NBA. They were the last remaining team of the teams that didn't survive. The One point the NBA was down to 9 teams, and then when the Baltimore Bullets folded, um, they were down to just 8 teams. But when the NBA later expanded, when after several seasons of just having 8 teams, the NBA expanded and brought in a new expansion franchise, and that was the Chicago Packers, that of course later also went by the name the Baltimore Bullets, um, and of course are now known as the Washington Wizards. Um, So, depending on how you understand or how you look at the history of the franchise, if you want to count them all as one entity, then they were on hiatus for a few years. Um, but they are kind of a separate team. So yeah, it's a little confusing because there are two different versions of the Baltimore Bullets. Um, Now, one of those two versions is now known as the Washington Wizards, but they did win an NBA championship, or at least a BAA championship, and the NBA counts that as an official part of their history. So I did actually include one player from the Baltimore Bullets, the original version of the Baltimore Bullets, on my team just because. So he's coming off my bench, and that's Buddy Jenkins, who was a player coach for the Baltimore Bullets, uh, both a player and the coach of the team the year they won the title in the BAA. And like I said, they also won an ABL title. Um, so um, yeah, Buddy Jenkins was one of the great players of the 1940s. One of the greatest of that decade. And he played for a few different teams over the years, but definitely helped them to that BAA championship that the NBA counts as part of its official history, like I said. Um, so I went ahead and threw him on this all-time Washington Wizards team just to uh, kind of round out the history of the NBA. Um, Now, if you counted their original origins, that they, of course, like I said, they had two championships. But they've only won one championship officially. The franchise only has one championship, and that came in 1978. Of course, they played back-to-back NBA Finals in 78 and 79 against the Seattle Supersonics. All right, so for my all-time Washington Wizards team, at point guard, I got John Wall. At shooting guard, Brad Beal. At small forward, I am putting Wes Unseld as a small forward, even though he played center during his career, because I wanted to include a couple of other big men on my starting lineup. So I moved Wes Unseld down to the small forward spot, having Elvin Hayes as the power forward and Walt Bellamy as the center, so that I could kind of round out my lineup with some big men there, because the Washington Wizards have a number of good, really good, important historical players at the big man position. So I wanted to include West Unseld, but it made more sense to move him down to the small forward spot, even though he played center in his day. But it doesn't really matter. I think that just the talent you have there with Wes Unseld, Elvin Hayes, and Walt Bellamy on the starting lineup, um, that's a good amount of talent to have on the starting lineup. Three big men. Doesn't matter which one you really designate as the small forward, power forward, center. Um, they can all play. I mean, at only 6'7", um, Wes Unseld was definitely the smallest center of his um, time period. And really, if you think about it, I don't think there's ever been another 6'7" center, dominant center, who's been a great player like that since Walt Bellamy. But he was even small for his time period playing in the 70s. I think he was a rookie in like the 68/69 season and playing center. Throughout the 70s, he was small even for his time period. Um, but yeah, there's never been another center that small again after Wes Unseld. Even Draymond Green in the modern NBA that's kind of moved to positionless basketball, with Green considered a center on those championship Warriors teams. I think his official listed height is 6'8", and Unseld was only 6'7", I believe. So he was undersized, but he went toe to toe with Wilt Chamberlain and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Bob McAdoo and all the great centers of the 70s. Uh, like Wilt Chamberlain, of course, only played during the early 70s, but you get the idea. Um, I mean, even his rookie season, I believe because I'm pretty sure, yeah, he played his rookie season in like 68/69, so he got to play one season up against the great um, Bill Russell and so forth. Um, Wes Unseld did have a MVP, and I believe he won MVP his rookie season, if I'm not mistaken. That was his MVP season. And he also got awarded Finals MVP the year that they finally won the championship in '78. Um, a lot of people feel that Elvin Hayes actually deserved to win Finals MVP that season. But Unseld had been the leader of that team for many years leading up to that championship. Okay, for the head coach of my all-time Washington Wizards team, I got Dick Motta, who was the coach um, the year they won the championship. And then with my bench, I got Greg Ballard, Gilbert Arenas, Antoine Jameson, Jack Martin, Phil Phil Chancellor, I believe is how you pronounce it, something like that. Gus Johnson, Brendan Hayward, Buddy Jenkins, like I mentioned before, Paul Hoffman, and Connie Simmons. So here's my all-time Washington Wizards. Um, like I said, I also included. Um, I don't know if I included multiple players or just some players from. It might have been just the one, but I wanted to include. No, I think the Paul Hoffman. I think the last three players are all from that 48 championship team. One of them might have also played um, in 46 when they won the title in the ABL. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of expand just for fun my all-time Washington Wizards. So that way every championship in NBA history, every official championship, including the three NBL or the three BAA championships, could be included. Um, since those are an official part of NBA history, they could be included. So I included, like Joe Flukes from the Philadelphia Warriors on my all-time Warriors list. Um, uh, Here, Buddy Jenkins for the Baltimore Bullets from 48 when they won the championship. And then from 49, I included George Mikan and Jim Pollard, and maybe even one other player for my all-time Lakers team. So I have all those early championships represented. Um, so yeah, on my all-time team series list, when you go through team by team, every championship in NBA history is represented on my all-time list. Um, at least one player from each championship team is represented by those by my all-time lists for each of the 30 NBA franchises. I think only 20 of the 30 NBA franchises have actually won championships, but nevertheless, uh, the all 80 championships of NBA history are represented In my list, I'm really glad that everyone uh, joined me for this series. Everyone who watched these videos. Yeah, the most recent championship, the 2026 championship, at the time I'm recording this video, is the most recent championship, and which is the 80th championship in NBA history, including the first three that were technically BAA championships, but 80 championships total in the official history of the NBA, and all 80 of those championships have been represented by my all-time team list. I really thank everybody for joining me. This has been a fun series. Stick around. I probably will do more NBA related content in the future, but I also do content on professional wrestling and including videos of some of my own matches. I do a lot of music content. I've done movies and TV shows, and I want to return to some of those things as well. But it's a variety show on my channel, so you never know what you're going to get. And um, yeah, just stick around, and I will keep doing more content. So thank you, everybody. This is Dragonfire. Thanks for joining me. Dragonfire out.